I'm trying to get out of this situation. You know, I'm trying to get out as best as I can. It's hard.
Yeah, that was me. I was in that vehicle for 3 years. At the time that I made that vlog, at the time, I think I was on 6 months at the time, 6 months being in that vehicle. I didn't think it was gonna last, that situation. I didn't think it was gonna last more than 1 to 2 weeks, but it just goes to show you how things can turn not in your favor. Um, this video is just gonna talk about the highlights of that experience and some of the situations that I had to overcome mentally, emotionally, intellectually in order to get where I am now and to make it through that time. Living in my vehicle for that length of time wasn't just uncomfortable, it was emotionally draining, mentally draining. I didn't know how long the situation was gonna last. I didn't feel like I had anyone to turn to because of the embarrassment that I felt. I was just at one of the lowest points in my life at the time, and I've had many, but that was definitely one of the most challenging times that I had to deal with. Three areas in specifically that were challenging for me was the loneliness that I felt, the shame that I felt, and the fact that I didn't know how long the situation was gonna last, and the negative self-talk that I had to deal with and overcome. I think the last one, negative self-talk, overcoming that was the hardest thing. And I think that's what made that situation last for the length of period of time that it lasted. The loneliness I felt was that I couldn't talk to anybody. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I was talking to God at the time. I was praying, but I wasn't getting any answers. I grew up in a very religious home and a strong upbringing in the Bible. At the time, I thought that that's where my salvation was going to come from, was God was going to help me out of that situation. That wasn't the case. I had to, in order for me to pull myself out of that situation, I had to take responsibility for my actions and change the way that I was looking at the situation and embrace it and use my own thoughts, my emotional intelligence, and taking action to actually turn that situation around. The second thing, shame, having to always be in places where people look at me funny because of the situation that I'm in. If I pulled up next to somebody or somebody pulled up next to me while I was parked, they would see my windows covered with towels because I didn't have any tint on the windows. They would see stuff in my vehicle, pillows, cover, a fan, because I didn't have any AC, so I had a fan hanging off of my visor. So they knew, whoever came there and looked at me, they knew something was going on. They knew I was living out of that vehicle. And when I noticed them noticing me, I felt extreme embarrassment and shame. So that was tough for maybe the first year. And then after the second year, I didn't give a shit. I really didn't. I didn't care who saw me in what situation. It just didn't bother me anymore. The negative self-talk, that was the most challenging. I berated myself. I told myself things that were making the situation worse and compounding the negative challenges that I was facing. It just compounded more and more because of the negative self-talk that I had. I had to do a lot of different things to overcome that negative self-talk. Part of the series of these videos is I'm gonna dive deeper into some of the tools that I use to overcome negative self-talk and get me to where I am now. But it was a long road. And in this particular situation of being, living out of the truck for 3 years, I had to do a lot of soul searching and growth through reading, and through a lot of other different techniques in order to overcome the negative self-talk. One of the things that I've done, you'll see some of these books. You Are Not Your Brain. That was a really good book that helped me to calm the negative self-talk. Reading books like from Joseph Murray on Infinite Riches, survival books. I know one way that I coped with a lot of the challenges that I was facing was that I would listen to other people who were in survival situations. Like there was one book that I must have read over and over and over again called Deep Survival by Lawrence Gonzalez. And I studied all of those situations and scenarios that he talked about in the book and how people survived, situations that were unbelievable and what their mindset was. And I had to reread and read and constantly listen to that over and over and over again until those principles stuck in my own mind. And that was kind of the main thing that helped me to get through the negative self-talk. It's just adopting those principles and adapting them to my own life. So when you're in a situation like that, you have to kill time, right? Because there were days that I didn't have anything to do. I was working at the time, but I just didn't earn enough to be able to get a place and pay my bills that I had. And I'll dive deeper into that in later videos as to what I was actually having to pay and why I couldn't afford to get an apartment or a home or anything like that. But when you're in that situation, you have to kill time because there were days that I may not have been working and I was just stuck in that vehicle, having to just go through the day, just doing nothing. So I think for the first 6 months to a year, I didn't have a plan and I was just constantly just sitting in the vehicle and just constantly going over and over of how shitty things were at the time. And that was what was prolonging the situation. I think after the first year though, I started to get a grip and started to try to create some sort of stability with my schedule when I didn't have to work. So what I would normally do to kill time was early in the morning, I would go to the gym, obviously to take care of my hygiene, take a shower at the gym, to try and exercise so that I don't get cramped and stretch so that, because I'm in a cramped area for a long period of time, your muscles start to atrophy and you start to get cramped. So being able to go to a gym and stretch and exercise and run, that helped a lot with that situation. And it also killed time at the same, while I was, doing that exercise. The second thing, after I left the gym, I would stay there for maybe two hours at the gym, and then I would go to a library and I would kill time at the library, just find a little corner at the library and just get a bunch of books and start reading. I was going to online school at the time to try to finish my degree in business management. So I would use that time at the library to do the homework on the online courses. But to be honest, my mind was just so fried that I couldn't really focus on studying. So my GPA went from like a 4.0 to down to like a 1.9 because of the situation, because I couldn't really focus. I just had too many things going on. But anyway, I would go to the library and I would stay there for a good length of time, maybe from like maybe 11 to 4 o'clock if I could, because people in the library, they would walk around checking on things and they would see a person sitting in the same area for a length of time. And they're like, okay, what are you doing here? We know you're not just reading the same book for that length of time. So they would eventually say, okay, if you're not doing anything, you have to leave, or this table needs to be or this table is reserved for somebody else. They use some bullshit excuse to get you out of there. So normally I would stay there until about 3 or 4, and then I would have to leave. And then once I left from there, I would go to like a Books A Million, and then that's where I would kill the rest of my day. The chairs were a lot more comfortable. Nobody really cared that you were in there. So I would just go in there and look at magazines of houses, wishing that I had a house, wishing that I had a bed. You know, I would read these books about people earning money in real estate and doing wonderful things. And I would just try to visualize myself in those situations and take myself out of the situation that I was in mentally and project my thoughts into the situations that I was reading in those magazines and books of people who are having success in life. And I would do that until about 10 o'clock at night. As soon as when it was dark outside, that gave me the opportunity to leave from there and then go out and start looking for parking spots to sleep for the rest of the night. I'll dive in deeper into that in other videos on how I managed that and the challenges that I had in dealing with those situations. Whenever I did get to finding a parking spot after I left the Books A Million, it was like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I was still wound up. You know, I still was upset of my situation, so I had to find a way to relax my mind, and the one way that I used to do that was by watching funny, stupid videos. Anything that didn't make you, anything that could just make you laugh. It could be silly, it could be anything. I'm 46 now, so the type of videos that I grew up on were like black and white, Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges. So those are kind of like slapstick comedy shows. And they were, to me, extremely funny and would help get me out of my mind and allow me to experience some type of a joy and happiness during that time. So I would watch those shows on rerun over and over again, even if I've seen them before. And I would just laugh. And that laughter helped me to relax. Another thing that I would watch, because of my situation and how bad I was feeling, I was like, okay, maybe I can watch other people suffer. So I would watch a lot of horror movies, paranormal shows, stuff like that, to let myself feel like, okay, well, at least, you know, I'm not the only one suffering out here. You know, I'll watch those shows and get a little bit of an emotional roller coaster of being scared and still feeling some type of a comfort that I'm not alone in struggling, even if it's a different scenario, different situation. So between the comedy shows and the horror movies, that would help me go to sleep at night. And I would sleep for maybe, it would be an off and on sleep. It wasn't really sleep, because, you know, when you're sleeping in a vehicle at night in public parking spots, there's things constantly happening around you that are going to be waking you up. People walking by, sirens, cars going by, people pulling up beside you, depending on where I'm finding a spot at. So the uncomfortableness of just sleeping in a cramped position. So I really didn't get a lot of sleep, but it was kind of off and on, maybe 30 minutes here, wake up for an hour, go back to sleep for another 30 minutes or 40 minutes, wake up again, then go back to sleep, and then constantly watching those shows. So those were the kind of things that helped me to relax at night, to at least get some sort of rest. And that's how I progressed and managed my day, so that I wasn't just constantly talking to myself negatively, if that makes sense. I would do those things, the library, the gym, taking a shower so that I can have some type of a decency and hygiene, because I still had to be a productive citizen at work. And in future videos, I'll go into how I managed keeping myself invisible, my situation invisible to my employers where I was working. That in itself was a challenge. I know anybody who's felt that's been through the situation and had to deal with that, they understand what I'm talking about. That in itself could be a real challenge. So in later videos, I'll go into that and talk to you about some of the techniques that I used to survive that situation and not get fired. But yeah, so that's how I set up my day for some type of success, so that I wasn't constantly berating myself and constantly feeling like shit all day. I would have things to do that kept me busy, if that makes sense. So those are the things that I had to do and that I dealt with while living in my truck for 3 years. Whatever you're facing, it may not be homelessness, it could be something completely different, but the mindset is still the same. Whether it's causing you to have negative self-talk, causing you to feel shame, or causing you to feel loneliness. My videos, everything that I'm talking about is just hopefully can resonate with somebody out there that's struggling. And the fact that I overcame that and I'm not in that vehicle anymore, and I do have my own place now and a nice comfortable bed to sleep in, that's proof that you can make it through whatever challenging situation that you're going through. So keep your head up. I'll be presenting more videos on different situations that I've been in. The homelessness is just one chapter, one small chapter of what I had to do to survive the years that I've been alive so far. And the whole point of this channel is to relate my experience that I've had, and hopefully somebody will resonate with that. A lot of these videos are going to be off the cuff. It's not really planned. I'm just going from memory on what I've been through and how I dealt with it. So forgive me if it's kind of a little bit all over the place, but I think you get the gist of what I'm talking about, especially if you're going through your own particular unique challenge. So if you got any value from this video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon so that you can stay notified when I have new videos coming. I will do one video per week. When I have time, I will try to do more. I also will try to do more shorts to just put a little bit more information out there. So if you like what you see, like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I look forward to seeing you on the other side in the next video. Thank you.